In my name, I'll be with them. Although you are scattered, I'm drawing you back to love you again. So come unto me, my child, and I'll give you peace. Then you will be B'nai Shalom. B'nai Shalom, children of peace. B'nai Shalom, on Yeshua we'll feast. B'nai Shalom, children of peace. B'nai Shalom, through Yeshua we'll be B'nai Shalom. Love one another as you have seen me love you. My sister, my brother, do as I command you, and come unto me, my child, and I'll give you peace. Then you will be B'nai Shalom. B'nai Shalom, children of peace. B'nai Shalom, on Yeshua we'll feast. B'nai Shalom, children of peace. B'nai Shalom, through Yeshua we'll be B'nai Shalom, children of peace. B'nai Shalom, children of peace.
Hallelujah. Blessed be the name of Yahweh, and Shabbat Shalom. Actually, not Shabbat Shalom. Shalom, shalom to all of you just joining us and joining us. We praise Yahweh. What a wonderful evening, as it is a beautiful evening here in the Ozarks of southern Missouri. We had 70-degree weather and pretty clear skies tonight, and I'm happy to report that it is officially a new year. And this is a live shot of the new moon here above our studio, our sky cam, here in Ava, Missouri. Yes, this is a live shot right now going on. We see the new moon here in Ava. I first saw it with my own two eyes. Others reported they saw it with their own two eyes, including the Rome family and Kayla Carter and others here in Ava area. And so praise Yahweh for the official beginning of a new year. Hallelujah. Blessed be the name of Yahweh. That means we are officially another year closer to seeing Yeshua's face and experiencing his grace and all being in one place. What an awesome time it's going to be. Until then, boy, we got to roll up our sleeves. We got a lot of work to do. We got a world that's looking for answers now. People are dying right and left from the coronavirus, and people are just in panic. And so we know that we have a solution, that even if we were to perish, we have an everlasting foundation, and there is no foundation anyone can lay but Yeshua and him crucified, or impaled. I like to say impaled. So anyway, praise Yahweh, and I'm looking for someone to call in and share the shofar blast. As you'll notice, the new moon kind of has this shape, and so we're looking for someone to share the shofar blast. The first one of the year. The world puts the new year in the middle of winter. Kind of a strange place to put it. We say the new year begins when life begins to reappear here on the earth with beautiful greenery happening. Actually, we're starting to see some trees bloom, and summer is officially upon us according to Scripture. There is no spring or fall. There's only summer and winter. So, hallelujah. And so, anyway, as we get a little further down on the horizon, I'm going to do a little more zooming in on this moon here. Although it looks like it's going to land above that tree. But hopefully get a better shot, a little more clear shot. But, hey, praise Yahweh. It's just a beautiful evening here in Ava, Missouri. And, wow, we were required by law to close the dine-in section of our True Brew coffee shop here in Ava, and but we've had people coming in, trickling in. Hasn't been near the amount of business, but we're continuing to feed people, and so actually more meals are going out for free than we're able to, acquire paying customers for. So I've been praying for that, but so far the Father's providing, and He's going to continue to do that. I know. So anyway, if you're interested in calling in, love to have you call in through Skype ID, Eliah.com, and maybe even share some music to Yahweh and praise to Him for a new year. So He's brought us through this past year, trials, tests, tribulations, and victories, and reasons for praise. And so for that, we have a time of praise here on Eliah.com broadcast. And please do send in your new moon reports. We've had several here already. I've got one from Brother Richard saying from Northeast Georgia, 2 adults, 8:34 p.m. The witnesses saw it without binoculars. Should be very easily visible tonight, pretty high in the sky, and within a half hour after sunset, you should be able to see the new moon. So, should be pretty easy to see. So anyway, hallelujah. So currently here we are, just above the top of the theater here in Ava, Missouri. As we're getting a little bit closer, a little bit more of a zoom here. Anyway, hope that someone will call in at 417-683-3575 or toll free 866-435-4924, and of course Skype ID Eliah.com, and perhaps you would be interested also in sharing photographs of the new moon. Feel free to do that. disciple@Eliah.com. Send in your email. Again, disciple@Eliah.com, and we will start posting pictures up here of new moon. And I've got a couple here already, which I'm going to get together and hopefully put on the screen here momentarily. But anyway, in the meantime, we're going to share a song here from the library. It's got to be Psalm 130 or 25. Yeah, 125.
Those who trust in Yahweh are like Mount Zion. Those who trust in Yahweh are like Mount Zion. They cannot be moved. They cannot be moved.
cannot be moved. They cannot be moved. From this time and forever, as long as the moon keeps time, you stand before me, the apple of my eye. You will not be moved. You will not be moved. You will not be moved. You will not be unfolds us, so Yahweh indwells us. We cannot be moved. We cannot be moved. We cannot be moved. We will not be praise to Yahweh, who lives forever. He cannot be moved. He cannot be moved. He cannot be moved. Those who trust in Yahweh are like Mount Zion. Those who trust in Yahweh are like Mount Zion. Trust in Yahweh. Trust in
And we do see, got a little bit better zoom in here of the new moon in Ava, Missouri. Praise Yahweh, His beautiful creation He has made. We give Him glory for the beauty of His creation, and that's His little sign right there. To get your shofar out and start praising Him. Start praising Him. Blessed be His name. Well, currently working on getting a photograph here of the new moon sightings that have been sent my way. We're going to post it up here on the screen, Yahweh willing. This is actually a live shot. If you're just joining us, this is a live shot of the new moon here in Ava, Missouri. Our Skycam, live Skycam on top of our theater/studio here in Ava. And so praise Yahweh. And we're going to continue to show you photographs of the new moon as they come in. And I'm looking currently for some photographs that have been sent my way. I can't seem to find them on my phone. I attached them to the SD card, but can't seem to find them. But anyway. It seems like there's no easy way to go from phone to PC. Just doesn't seem to work real well. Anyway, so we're gonna. I'll look at this later. I can't keep holding you guys up, but anyway, love to have you call in here at 417-543 and 5151. I'm sorry, 417-683-3575, 866-435-4924, and Skype ID at elia.com. So I'm actually looking to send this photographs of the new moon. Looks like it's going to go behind the trees here momentarily, so that is currently a live shot of the new moon in Ava, Missouri. Well, I thank Yahweh for the ability to do that. I just think it's pretty awesome to be able to share the live videos of the new moon right here from the studio. It's always been kind of a challenge for me because a lot of times when the people out there looking for the new moon, then I have to be behind the camera. I've got nowhere to go. I can't like get up from the chair and say, "Oh, you guys wait on a minute. I'm going to go look for the new moon." So anyway, praise Yahweh, and looks like Brother Richard is calling in, and we're going to bring him on the line. And Shabbat Shalom, brother. How are you doing?
You said Shabbat.
Oh, you're right. I do that all the time. It is just, that's what you're used to saying on this broadcast.
Yeah.
Here we go. Are you ready? I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Praise Yahweh.
Praise Yahweh.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Blessed be Yahweh. And so that's our first shofar blast of the year. Glad to share it with you, brother.
Hallelujah. Praise Yahweh.
Able to do that across the miles.
Yeah.
And,
it was completely cloudy here, but Caleb sent in the sighting I put on your comments thing from Georgia, and then the room team called me shortly after they contacted you with their sighting too. So
awesome. Well, hallelujah. So you have some music to share?
yeah, I thought I'd call and praise Yahweh.
Sounds good to me.
All right. See my screen okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sing a song called Praise Yahweh. Hallelujah. And I did get the strings done before New Moon broadcast this time, huh? I'm getting better at that. Well, not all the time, but this time I did. Praise Yahweh. Praise Yahweh, His mercy endures. Praise Yahweh forevermore. Praise Yahweh, His mercy endures. Praise Yahweh forevermore. Yahweh is my I shall not want. He leads me through green pastures, beside still waters. I will not be afraid. He will never leave or forsake me. He's with me till the end of the age. Praise Yahweh, His mercy endures. Praise Yahweh forevermore. Praise Yahweh, His mercy endures. Praise Yahweh forevermore. Sing to the King of Kings and let your praises ring. Sing of all his wonders, we come across. He has parted the sea of reeds. He has done mighty great deeds. He smote many kings, even Sichon and Og. Praise Yahweh, His mercy endures. Praise Yahweh forevermore. 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 Praise Yahweh. Hallelujah.
Oh, man. You got another one?
I got plenty as long as you let me go. Hallelujah. I am not the least bit tired tonight. Normally I go to sleep around now, so I should be, but sleep's been all over the place. But last couple nights been pretty good. All right. That's probably why I'm not tired tonight, because I slept really good last night. So. This is actually my favorite song for breaking in the strings. Every time after I string it up for New Moon Day, I always sing this one. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Know Him well in all your ways. Know Him, know Him. He makes all your paths straight. Makes all your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahweh, turn away from evil. Turn away from evil. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Know Him well in all your ways. Know Him, know Him. He makes all your paths straight. Makes all your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahweh, turn away from evil. Turn away from evil. Praise Yahweh. Hallelujah.
Amen. Blessed be Yahweh. Appreciate it, brother.
Praise Yahweh. Is that it then?
That'll have to do it. We're going to move on to our study portion for tonight's broadcast. And appreciate
All
it,
right.
brother.
Yahweh bless you and keep you. Love your brother.
Love you too. Blessings to you.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. All right, and we're going to go ahead and share a song or two from the library, and then we're going to move forward to our study portion for the broadcast tonight. One last shot of the new moon as it's going behind the trees here in Ava. This is very strange. My taskbar windows are all stuck on the screen. But here we go. As you can see, it is going over the horizon and it's behind the trees, so a little bit, actually, the tree branches are sort of in the way of the new moon being seen there, but that's our final shot of the evening. Praise Yahweh for a new year. He is awesome, and we love to learn His ways, and this may actually be the 10-year the 10 years of precluding His return. You never know. I mean, maybe 10 years from tonight will be the year in which we see Yeshua return. That would be about 2,000-year anniversary of His death and resurrection. So, there we go. Anyway, we're going to share a song here from the library. It is Revelation chapter 5.
Springs in the desert, flowing water pure and free. Springs in the desert, eternal life for you and me. The waters will break forth, the desert will rejoice. Streams in the wilderness, sands become a pool. Yahweh will be there, His Son will be the King. Nations will come up and praise Him again. Springs in the desert, flowing water pure and free. Springs in the desert, eternal life for you and me. We can have free water and never thirst again, a source of living water to wash away our sin. Yeshua, our Redeemer, has promised us a home and given life eternal if we drink the water. There'll be no death to hurt and destroy, and no pain will ever be there. Freely He will give from the fountain of life, life forevermore, life forevermore. The river of life springing from the throne, life-giving water so deep we can't pass through. The Lamb and the Father will be there in that land, a land truly healed, a land healed by living water. Springs in the desert, flowing water pure and free. Springs in the desert, eternal life for you and me. Eternal life for you and me.
Blessed be the name of Yahweh. Hallelujah. And we do have some new moon pictures to show. And this one here is from Solomon, who saw the new moon this evening in Lee County, Georgia. A little bit hard to see. I'll go ahead and zoom in on it for you. Solomon from Lee County, Georgia, was able to see the new moon. Hallelujah. There you go. And then we have some other photographs here. I'm going to pull up. And this one would be by the Rome family here in Ava, Missouri. Hallelujah. I'll do a little zoom on this as well. Thanks for showing us a picture there in your part of Ava. And then I have another one from Brother, actually from Kayla Carter, who sent the following photograph in. And this is from the park here in Ava, Missouri. and a little zoom in there for you. And so really cool to see different people participating in new moon sightings. It's always a neat thing to do with a family, and we praise Yahweh for that. And of course, for those of you who missed it, we definitely saw a new moon here. We had a live shot of the new moon here in Ava, Missouri. So we are officially in a new year. The barley reports have confirmed we do have Aviv barley, and certainly enough to harvest for an omer of barley. So that's a signal, according to Deuteronomy chapter 16, that it is for us to be able to call it a new year. And I also have something exciting to announce as well, that we do have Yahweh's Calendar 2020 now available, exclusive for you for now until we get the web page updated. And it's going to be on the following address: eliah.com/2020.pdf. That's right, eliah.com/calendar, calendar 2020 .pdf. I'll confirm that works. It should work. And that is Yahweh's calendar for 2020 and 2021. I did something a little different this year in that I just assumed our next year is not going to have 13 months. And so I went ahead and put the first month of the following year on this year's calendar and included the 2021 feast dates along with it. So, if we're a little bit late getting the calendar out next year, you will still be able to get an idea of when the feast day should be. So, so if you're interested, we're looking at what the world calls late September, last 7 days of September, depending on new moon visibility for a Feast of Tabernacles next year. But that's next year. This year, starting on what's called the 3rd of October. And this year, the feast dates are all going to be in line. Pretty much everybody should be in unity as far as the calendar. Even the Jewish calendar for the fall feast dates are actually going to be in unity with us, because they do postponements whenever there's a date that doesn't, is inconvenient. They'll actually postpone the Jewish calendar. They don't like Yom Kippur falling too close to the, it's eliah.com/calendar 2020.pdf. Those of you in the chat room, so repost that one. I made a mistake. When you multitask, sometimes you misspeak. So I'm going to correct that. Yeah, you got that. The helpers got that down. So that is the location of this year's calendar. I think it's mistake-free. We've had several people look at it. So if you notice any mistakes, feel free to let us know, and we will correct it. Feast dates, though, are definitely correct on this calendar. Don't worry about that. We do have the correct feast dates. And I should mention that we would like to print this calendar this year, but finances do not enable us to do that right now. It's going to cost, a couple $1,000s at least to print this thing out. So, yeah, not cheap. So, and we've never had a year where donations for the calendar matched our costs. So we always lose money on it. But if you're interested, if someone wants to, put up a fund out there for that, feel free to, if you want to help with that, feel free to let me know, and we'll see if we can get enough funding together to send it off to the printers like we have in previous years. But this year, donations are not up to par. So anyway, we do want to look at the scriptures that speak about the ninth or the first month of Yahweh's calendar. So we are going to do that, and so we are officially in the first month. And yes, the barley reports, once again, I want to reiterate that the barley reports do show that there is plenty of harvestable barley in the land of Israel at this moment as we speak on this date. So it was actually kind of close because they had a lot of rain. But there were some tells that had, toward the bottom of the tell, that's the hill, they had harvestable barley. About 40% of the whole field was harvestable. So certainly could harvest part of the field and bring the barley in for the priest. So we are in that first month of the year. And so this is the first month of Yahweh's calendar, and 2020, praise Yahweh. And we're going to look at some scriptures here that speak about events that took place in this first month. And so we're going to start with Numbers, actually Genesis chapter 8 and verse 13. It says, "It came to pass in the 601st year, the first month, the first day of the month, that the waters were dried up from the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and indeed the surface of the ground was dry." So first year, first month, first day of the month. 601st year, I should say. First month, first day of the month, the waters were dried up from the earth. And so this is a pretty momentous event for Brother Noah as he looked out on New Year's Day and saw that the waters were dried up from the earth, and he removed the covering, and the ground was dry. I'm sure he was just praising Yahweh for having delivered them all from the greatest tempest that's probably ever been known to man. And so here we are. We are now the anniversary of that time. And then we have, moving forward here, in the book of Exodus chapter 12, it says, "Now Yahweh spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be your beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th day of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household." So, first month of the year, on the 10th day of the month, that is when Yahweh, the anniversary of the time, that they would select the lambs. And make sure they'd have 4 days to examine it, and make sure that that lamb was without blemish. And then after 4 days, it would be the 14th day of the month, and they would slaughter the lamb. In Numbers chapter 33, verse 3, it says, "They departed from Ramses in the first month on the 15th day of the first month. On the day after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with boldness in the sight of all the Egyptians." So another event that took place here in the first month, 15th day of the month, that's also a holy day. So officially, in 15 days from now, it will be a holy day. It's going to correspond with what the world calls the 9th of April, starting on the 8th of April at sundown. And that's when we are going to remember the Messiah Yahshua and what he did for us. And we're going to partake of the fruit of the vine and the unleavened bread, symbolizing the body and the blood of Yahshua. In Exodus chapter 40, verse 17, it says, "It came to pass in the first month, the second year, on the first day of the month, the tabernacle was raised up." So the second year of the Exodus, on the first day of the month, they raised up the tabernacle. So Moses raised up the tabernacle, fastened its sockets, it set up its boards, put in its bars, and raised up its pillars. And so this was another day in which we can say is the anniversary, starting tonight, of the time when the tabernacle was actually raised. You know, the world we live in today has anniversaries of important events. What the world calls July 4th, Declaration of Independence, different presidents' birthdays, Martin Luther King's birthday, memorial, just different things they would memorialize. And so, why don't we do that? I mean, there's certain things that happen on the first day of the month, like, you know, Noah's Ark. He looked out there and the ground was dry, and the time the tabernacle was raised up. And so it's New Year's Day, a new beginning. And so here we are. I think it's something we ought to do. He says he took the testimony and put it into the ark, inserted the poles through the rings of the ark, and put the mercy seat on top of the ark. All this stuff about arks here on the first day of the month. Noah's Ark, and then the Ark of the Covenant, right? And he brought the ark into the tabernacle, hung up the veil of the covering, and partitioned off the ark of the testimony, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. He put the table in the tabernacle of meeting on the north side of the tabernacle, outside the veil. And he set the bread in order upon it before Yahweh, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. He put the lampstand in the tabernacle of meeting, across from the table on the south side of the tabernacle. And he lit the lamps before Yahweh, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. He put the gold altar in the tabernacle of meeting in front of the veil, and he burned sweet incense on it, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. He hung up the screen at the door of the tabernacle. He put the altar of the burnt offering before the door of the tabernacle in the tent of meeting, and offered upon it the burnt offering and the grain offering, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. He set the laver between the tabernacle of meeting and the altar, and put water there for washing. And Moshe, Aaron, and his sons would wash their hands and their feet with water from it. Whenever they went into the tabernacle of meeting, when they came near the altar, they washed, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And he raised up the court all around the tabernacle and the altar, and hung up the screen of the court gate. So Moshe finished the work. Then the cloud covered the tabernacle of meeting, and the glory of Yahweh filled the tabernacle. And Moshe was not able to enter the tabernacle of meeting, because the cloud rested above it, and the glory of Yahweh filled the tabernacle. Whenever the cloud was taken up from above the tabernacle, the children of Israel would go onward in all their journeys. But if the cloud was not taken up, then they did not journey until the day it was taken up. For the cloud of Yahweh was above the tabernacle by day, and the fire was over it by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout their journeys. Pretty momentous event there in that particular chapter. You know, the tabernacle being built, which became the centerpiece of worship for the next 1,500 years. The tabernacle and temple of Yahweh being set up on the first day of the first month on Yahweh's calendar. So pretty significant events going on here. And Numbers chapter 20, it says, the children of Israel, the whole congregation, came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed at Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. And so we don't have a particular day of the month this took place, but we do know it happened in the first month. It says, now there was no water for the congregation, so they gathered together against Moshe and Aaron. And the people contended with Moshe and spoke, saying, if only we had died when our brethren died before Yahweh. Why have you brought up the assembly of Yahweh into this wilderness, that we and our animals should die here? And why have you made us come up out of Egypt to bring us to this evil place? It is not a place of grain or figs or vines or pomegranates, nor is there any water to drink. So Moshe and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the door of the tabernacle of meeting, and they fell on their faces. They were being very disrespectful, weren't they? And the glory of Yahweh appeared to them. Then Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, take the rod, you and your brother Aaron, to gather the congregation together, speak to the rock before their eyes. Notice it says, speak to the rock, and it will yield its water. Thus you shall bring water for them out of the rock, and give drink to the congregation and their animals. So Moshe took the rod from before Yahweh, as he commanded him. And Moshe and Aaron gathered the assembly together before the rock, and he said to them, Hear now, you rebels, must we bring water for you out of this rock? Then Moshe lifted his hand and struck the rock twice with his rod, and water came out abundantly, and the congregation and their animals drank. Then Yahweh spoke to Moshe and Aaron, Because you did not believe me, to hallow me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them. Wow, consequence big time. For doing it wrong. He told them, speak to the rock, right? That's what he said. Speak to the rock, it will yield its water. He didn't say, speak to the children of Israel and call them a bunch of rebels, right? Hear now, you rebels. He obviously was frustrated. Must we bring water for you out of this rock? And so he's kind of acting a little bit like a, magician or something, and strikes the rock. And that was not something that Yahweh liked at all. He said, you did not believe me. In other words, they felt like they had to do something. All they had to do was speak, and it was going to happen. But they decided to strike the rock, not once, but twice, with a rod. And so that caused Yahweh to say, Moshe, Aaron, you guys are not going to bring the assembly into the land. Plans are canceled. You all are not going to be the ones doing it. And it must have been very disappointing for Moshe. This was the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel contended with Yahweh, and he was hallowed among them. And so he was made holy when he actually punished Moshe and Aaron. And he tested them there, didn't he? All right, Joshua chapter 4, verse 15. It says, And Yahweh spoke to Joshua, saying, Command the priests who bear the ark of the testimony to come up from the Jordan. Joshua therefore commanded the priests, saying, Come up from the Jordan. And it came to pass, when the priests who bore the ark of the covenant of Yahweh had come from the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet touched the dry land, that the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and overflowed all its banks as before. Now the people came up from the Jordan on the what? 10th day of the first month. That's the day when they would select their lambs, right? And they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones, which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal. And he spoke to the children of Israel, saying, When your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, What are these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Israel crossed over this Jordan on dry land. For Yahweh your Elohim dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over, as Yahweh your Elohim did to the Red Sea, which he dried up before us until we had crossed over, that all the peoples of the earth may know the hand of Yahweh, that it is mighty, that you may fear Yahweh your Elohim forever. So Yahweh was very interested in leaving a landmark there for the generation to come, so that they would have assurance as to the great and awesome power of Yahweh, right? And so this is what they did, and this took place in the first month. So another first month anniversary. In 2 Chronicles chapter 29, verses 1 through 3, Hezekiah became king when he was 25 years old, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abiah, the daughter of Zechariah. And he did what was right in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that his father David had done. He opened the doors of the house of Yahweh and repaired them. Then he brought in the priests and the Levites and gathered them in the east square, and said to them, Hear me, Levites, now sanctify yourselves, sanctify the house of Yahweh Elohim of your fathers, and carry out the rubbish from the holy place. For our fathers have trespassed and done evil in the eyes of Yahweh our Elohim. They have forsaken him, have turned their faces away from the dwelling place of Yahweh, and turned their backs on him. They have also, my sons, do not, wait a minute. They have also shut up the doors of the vestibule, put out the lamps, and have not burned incense or offered burnt offerings in the holy place to the Elohim of Israel. Therefore the wrath of Yahweh fell upon Judah and Jerusalem, and he has given them up to trouble, to desolation, and to jeering, as you see with your eyes. For indeed because of this our fathers have fallen by the sword, and our sons, our daughters, and our wives are in captivity. Now it is in my heart to make a covenant with Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, that his fierce wrath may turn away from us. My sons, do not be negligent now, for Yahweh has chosen you to stand before him, to serve him, that you should minister to him and burn incense. Then these Levites arose, Mahath the son of Amasai, and Yael, the son of Azariah, of the sons of the Kohathites, of the sons of Merari, Kish, the son of Abdi, and Azariah, the son of Jehalelel, of the Gershonites, Joah, the son of Zimmah, and Eden, the son of Joah, or Joah. Of the sons of Elizaphan, Shimri and Jael, of the sons of Asaph, Zechariah, and Mattaniah. Of the sons of Heman, Jehiel and Shimei, and the sons of Jeduthun, Shemaiah and Uzziel. And they gathered their brethren, sanctified themselves, and went according to the commandment of the king at the words of Yahweh to cleanse the house of Yahweh. Then the priests went into the inner part of the house of Yahweh to cleanse it, and brought out all the debris that they found in the temple of Yahweh to the court of the house of Yahweh. And the Levites took it out and carried it to the brook Kidron. Now they began to sanctify on the first day of the first month. So another anniversary. And on the 8th day of the month, they came to the vestibule of Yahweh. Then they sanctified the house of Yahweh in 8 days. And on the 16th day of the first month, they finished. Then they went into the head king Hezekiah and said, We have cleansed all the house of Yahweh, the altar of burnt offerings with all its articles, and the table of the showbread with all its articles. Moreover, all the articles which King Ahaz in his reign had cast aside in his transgression, we have prepared and sanctified, and there they are before the altar of Yahweh. Then King Hezekiah rose early, gathered the rulers of the city, and went up to the house of Yahweh. And they brought 7 bulls, 7 rams, 7 lambs, and 7 male goats for a sin offering for the kingdom, for the sanctuary, and for Judah. Then he commanded the priests, the sons of Aaron, to offer them on the altar of Yahweh. So they killed the bulls, and the priests received the blood and sprinkled it on the altar. Likewise they killed the rams and sprinkled the blood on the altar. They also killed the lambs and sprinkled the blood on the altar. Then they brought out the male goats for the sin offering before the king and assembly, and they laid hands on them. And the priests killed them, and they presented their blood on the altar as a sin offering to make an atonement for all Israel. For the king commanded that the burnt offering and the sin offering be made for all Israel. And he stationed the Levites in the house of Yahweh with cymbals, with stringed instruments, and with harps, according to the commandment of David, of God the king's seer, and Nathan the prophet, for thus was the commandment of Yahweh by his prophets. Sorry about that. A Levite stood with the instruments of David, and the priest with the trumpets. Then Hezekiah commanded them to offer the burnt offering on the altar, and when the burnt offering began, the song of Yahweh also began, with the trumpets and with the instruments of David the king of Israel. So all the assembly worshipped, the singers sang, and the trumpeters sounded. All this continued until the burnt offering was finished. And when they had finished offering, the king and all who were present with him bowed and worshipped. Moreover, King Hezekiah and the leaders command the Levites to sing praise to Yahweh with the words of David and of Asaph the seer. So they sang praises with gladness, and they bowed their heads and worshipped. Then King Hezekiah answered and said, Now that you've consecrated yourselves to Yahweh, come near and bring sacrifices and thank offerings into the house of Yahweh. So the assembly brought in sacrifices and thank offerings, and as many as were of a willing heart brought burnt offerings. And the number of the burnt offerings which the assembly brought was 70 bulls, 100 rams, and 200 lambs, and all these were for a burnt offering to Yahweh. The consecrated things were 600 bulls and 3,000 sheep. But the priests were too few, so they could not skin all the burnt offerings. Therefore their brethren the Levites helped them until the work was ended, and until the other priests had sanctified themselves, for the Levites were more diligent in sanctifying themselves than the priests. Also the burnt offerings were in abundance, and the fat of the peace offerings with the drink offerings for every burnt offering. So the service of the house of Yahweh was set in order. And Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced that Elohim had prepared the people, since the events took place so suddenly. And moving into chapter 30, and Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah, and also wrote letters to Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem, to keep the Passover to Yahweh Elohim of Israel. For the king and his leaders and all the assembly in Jerusalem had agreed to keep the Passover in the 2nd month. For they could not keep it at the regular time, because a sufficient number of the priests had not consecrated themselves, nor had the people gathered together at Jerusalem. And so this was an important Passover here, a time of revival in Israel. And I've noticed a lot of times a revival in Israel is accompanied by a feast, not, somewhere around that same time. And so here we are in the 1st month, and we are called to examine ourselves as believers and then partake of the cup. So this is a time to get the sin out of our life. Things that we feel have gotten a grip on us, or things that we're struggling with, we need to resolve to overcome it and prepare ourselves to partake of the Messiah Yeshua, who was offered for us, that Passover lamb offered for us. And so, time of revival here in Hezekiah's time. And you're going to see there's another revival taking place at a time of Josiah, and he does in like manner. 2 Chronicles 35, verses 1 through 2. Now Josiah kept a Passover to Yahweh in Jerusalem, and they slaughtered the Passover lambs on the 14th day of the 1st month. And he set priests in their duties, and encouraged them for the service of the house of Yahweh. Now further down in the chapter, into verse 10, it says, So the service was prepared, and the priests stood in their places, and the Levites in their divisions according to the king's command, and they slaughtered the Passover offerings, and the priests sprinkled the blood with their hands, while the Levites skinned the animals. Then they removed the burnt offerings, that they might give them to the divisions of their fathers' houses of the lay people, to offer to Yahweh, as it is written in the book of Moshe. So they did with the cattle. And so this was a 1st month event, and a time of restoration, revival. Josiah decided that he was going to serve Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel. And Hilkiah the high priest had found the book of the law, and he tore his clothes, and he was shocked over what had happened and what the standard of Yahweh actually was, and how they were falling short of that standard. And so really was a very tremendous time of revival there in the land of Israel. Another time of revival, the time of Ezra. It says the descendants of the captivity kept the Passover on the 14th day of the 1st month, for the priests and Levites had purified themselves. All of them are ritually clean, and they slaughtered the Passover lambs for the descendants of the captivity, for their brethren, the priests, and for themselves. And the children of Israel who had returned from the captivity ate together with all who had separated themselves from the filth of the nations of the land, in order to seek Yahweh Elohim of Israel. And they kept the feast of unleavened bread 7 days with joy, for Yahweh made them joyful, and turned the heart of the king of Assyria toward them, to strengthen their hands in the work of the house of Elohim. the Elohim of Yisrael. Ezra came to Jerusalem in the 5th month, which is the 7th year of the king. On the first day of the 1st month, he began his journey from Babylon. So here we go. First day of the 1st month, journey from Babylon. And we know the Passover also takes place in the 1st month. And then the first day of the 5th month, he came to Jerusalem. It took him 5 months to get there, according to the good hand of his Elohim upon him. For Ezra had prepared his heart to seek the law of Yahweh and to do it, and to teach statutes and ordinances in Israel. That's what we're called to do. And then later in chapter 10, it says, Ezra the priest stood up and said to them, "You have transgressed and taken pagan wives, adding to the guilt of Israel. Now therefore, make confession to Yahweh Elohim of your fathers and do his will. Separate yourselves from the peoples of the land and from the pagan wives." Then all the assembly answered with a loud voice, "Yes, as you have said, so we must do." But there are many peoples. It is a season for heavy rain. We are not able to stand outside, nor is this the work of 1 or 2 days, for there are many of us who have transgressed in this matter. And I don't know why exactly that segment is there. Did I miss something? Ezra chapter 10, verses 10 through 13. I think that ended by the 1st month, I believe. Ezra 10. Yeah, on down to verse 17. I'll go ahead and post this. Says, okay, please let the leaders of our entire assembly stand. Let those in our cities who have taken pagan wives come at appointed times, together with the elders and judges of their cities, until the fierce wrath of our Elohim is turned away from us in this matter. Only Jonathan the son of Azahel and Josiah the son of Tikva opposed this, and Meshullam and Shabbatai the Levite gave them support. Then the descendants of the captivity did so, and Ezra the priest with certain heads of the fathers' households were set apart by the fathers' households, each of them by name. They sat down on the first day of the 10th month to examine the matter, and by the first day of the 1st month they finished questioning all the men who had taken pagan wives. I guess they want to have it done by then, because they're looking to have that done by that New Year's Day, right? And then there was another event here. I need to add to this slide. I guess it wasn't included. Let me go ahead and fix that. But there was another event that occurred, and I want to fix it so that we can include it here. Oh, I guess I did have it up there. I just skipped it. That's what happened. So anyway, looking back here at Ezra chapter 7 in verse 8. I guess it was on there. I just didn't see it was on there. Ezra chapter 7 and verse 8. No, I already shared that slide. So, okay, yeah, I don't have Ezra 8 verse 31 up there. So I'm going to do that just now. Bear with me. I'm trying to cover all the events that took place in the 1st month of Yahweh's calendar. And so, all right, we got it up here now. So we departed from the river of Ahava on the 12th day of the 1st month to go to Jerusalem. And the hand of our Elohim was upon us, and he delivered us from the hand of the enemy and from the ambush along the road. So we came to Jerusalem and stayed there 3 days. So they went to Ahava, and then they departed from there on the 12th day of the 1st month. So another 1st month event here. And then we're going to move on to the book of Esther here in Esther chapter 3 and verse 7. 1 minute. All right, in the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Pur, that is the lot, before Haman, to determine the day and the month until it fell on the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. And Haman said to King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from all the other peoples, and they do not keep the king's laws. Therefore, it is not fitting for the king to let them remain. So this is a first month event here. If it pleases the king, let a decree be written that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who do the work, to bring it into the king's treasuries. So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said to Haman, the money and the people are given to you, to do to them as seems good to you. Then the king's scribes were called on the 13th day of the first month, and a decree was written according to all Haman commanded, to the king's satraps, to the governors who were over each province, to the officials of all people, to every province according to its script, and to every people in their language. In the name of King Ahasuerus it was written, and sealed with the king's signet ring. And the letters were sent by couriers into all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and annihilate the Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. So obviously, evil plan by Haman here on the first month of Yahweh's new year, which ironically, because the Egyptians, they wanted to kill all the firstborn, and Pharaoh, and this, of course, the first month we know Yahweh delivered them, right? But Ezekiel chapter 29, verse 17. It says, it came to pass in the 27th year of the first month, on the first day of the month, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, caused his army to labor strenuously against Tyre. Every head was made bald, every shoulder was rubbed raw, yet neither he nor his army received wages from Tyre for the labor which they expended upon it. Therefore, thus says the Master Yahweh, surely I will give the land of Egypt to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. He shall take away her wealth, carry off her spoil, and remove her pillage, and that will be the wages for his army. I have given him the land of Egypt for his labor, because they worked for me, says their Master Yahweh. So, that was it from that chapter. So, I'm sorry, one more. In that day I will cause the horn of the house of Israel to spring forth, and I will open your mouth to speak in your midst. Then they shall know that I am Yahweh. So, important prophecy there in chapter 29, and again in chapter 30. Nope, that was it. Actually, this next one is from the book of Daniel. In chapter 10, it says, in the third year of King Cyrus, or Cyrus king of Persia, a message was revealed to Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar. The message was true, but the appointed time was long, and he understood the message and had understanding of the vision. In those days I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant food, no meat or wine came into my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all, till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. Now on the 24th day of the first month, there's another first month event, as I was by the side of the great river, that is the Tigris, I lifted my eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose waist was girded with the gold of Ophaz. His body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like torches of fire, his arms and feet like burnished bronze in color, and the sound of his words were like the voice of a multitude. Suddenly a hand touched me, which made me tremble. On my knees, on the palms of my hands, he said, Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words I speak to you, and stand upright, for I have now been sent to you. While he was speaking this word to me, I stood trembling. Then he said to me, Do not fear, Daniel, for from the first day you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before your Elohim, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. Back up here. And behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left alone there with the kings of Persia. Now I have come to make you understand what will happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision refers to many days yet to come. So, in a spiritual realm, there are demonic forces over various pagan kingdoms. And in the spiritual realm, they're doing battle with the angels of Yahweh. And this angel wanted to go and give this, pay this visit to Daniel, but he couldn't because of the opposition in the spiritual realm. And so it took a strong prince, Michael, to come and take care of business. Right? Another first month event, obviously, Yahshua, as he finished all these things, said to his disciples, You know, after 2 days is the Passover, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified. And that is a very, very important first month event that we all know quite well, don't we? So, very important month here on Yahweh's calendar. Another event, Acts chapter 1, should be actually chapter 12. Now about that time, Herod the king stretched out his hand to harass some in the congregation. Then he killed James, the brother of John, with a sword. And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to seize Peter also. Now it was during the days of unleavened bread. So he actually took Peter during the feast. So when he had arrested him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 squads of soldiers to keep him, intending to bring him before the people after Passover. Peter was therefore kept in prison, but constant prayer was offered to Elohim for him by the congregation. And when Herod was about to bring him out, that night Peter was sleeping, bound with 2 chains between 2 soldiers, and the guards before the door were keeping the prison. Now behold, an angel of Yahweh stood by him, and a light shone in the prison, and he struck Peter on the side and raised him up, saying, Arise quickly. And his chains fell off his hands. Then the angel said to him, Gird yourself and tie on your sandals. So he did. And he said to him, Put on your garment and follow me. So he went out and followed him, and did not know this was done by the angel. What was done by the angel was real, but thought he was seeing a vision. When they were past the first and second guard posts, they came to the iron gate that leads to the city, which opened to them of its own accord, and they went out and went down one street. Immediately the angel departed from him. Now when Peter had come to himself, he said, Now I know for certain that Yahweh has sent his angel, has delivered me from the hand of Herod, and from all the expectation of the Jewish people. Again, this is all happening during the days of unleavened bread. So when they had considered this, he came to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose surname was Mark, where many were gathered together praying. And as Peter knocked at the door of the gate, a girl named Rhoda came to answer. When she recognized Peter's voice, because of her gladness, she did not open the gate, but ran in and announced that Peter stood before the gate. That's just like a young girl to do that. And it's just excitement. The emotion came over her. I can understand that. But they said to her, You are beside yourself. Yet she kept insisting it was so. So they said, It's his angel. Now Peter, that's one reason I think that maybe our angels look like us and sound like us. Just saying. And maybe that's what people are seeing sometimes after their loved ones die. They're actually seeing their angel paying visits. Anyway, now Peter continued knocking, and when they opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. But motioning to them with his hand to keep silent, he declared to them how Yahweh had brought him out of the prison. And he said, Go tell these things to James and to the brethren. And he departed and went to another place. Then, as soon as it was day, there was no small stir among the soldiers about what had become of Peter. But when Herod had searched for him and not found him, he examined the guards and commanded they should be put to death. And he went down from Judea to Caesarea and stayed there. So, they had to laugh at that. I mean, somewhere. I think I would have laughed over that whole thing. Because, they're like, well, how could he get out? I mean, what happened? And there he was, free. And if you continue to read the book of Acts, you find out that, let me see here. That actually Yahweh had judged Herod right after this. And because people were saying about him, oh, the voice of an Elohim and not a man. And he wasn't giving glory to Yahweh, and so he actually died. So, anyway, praise Yahweh, and that is the first month scriptures. And if you're interested in looking at this in a calendar and the things that took place, actually, what days they are, how it lines up with our modern calendar. The calendar that we have here at eliot.com/calendar2020.pdf actually has new moon charts. It has the events that took place in Scripture, what days they took place. The Scripture, you can look up the Scriptures, and there you'll discover the full list of events and when they happened and how it corresponds to our modern Roman calendar and what day it actually occurs. Okay, so here's our calendar here, and oops, I'm going to go ahead and show it to you because you can see here first month and first month of the year. This is a new moon chart for tonight, and so pretty visible. It was seen in Israel, by the way, if you're wondering that. It was seen there, and so here we are. Looks like we might have a mistake here. Ah, that's next year. I'm sorry. Like, what in the world? Okay, here we go. That's next year, not this year. That's 2021. That's not 2020. This is a new moon chart for tonight, right here, and actually very similar. On the night of 3/25, you see here, pretty visible all throughout, and including the land of Israel proper. So easy to see there in Israel. And then it's a description of first month events, and you see here first month of the year, and here we are. It is the night of the 25th, what's called Wednesday, fourth day of the week, and this is the first night of the new moon, and so that means what the world calls Thursday, or fifth day of the week, is actually the first day of the new year, which corresponds to the 26th day of the month commonly called March. And you'll see here the different events. The word of Yahweh came to Ezekiel in Ezekiel 30. A future cleansing takes place, Ezekiel 45. And temple sanctified here. And of course, the most important thing, Passover day and Feast of Unleavened Bread. Different things that took place. And just little biblical events that took place during certain days of Yahweh's calendar. And it includes here the counting of the Omer, which begins on what the world calls April the 12th. And we keep track of the Omer as it goes down through each month. And this calendar is going to last all the way until a year from now on the Roman calendar, and when we anticipate first month of the year next year actually being starting on the 15th. and or night of the 14th, and going into the 15th. It's usually about an 11-day trek backwards, and then it resets every 2 or 3 years. So next year, Passover will be what the world calls late March, and so that's what we're anticipating anyway, barring the barley not being visible or seen as Aviv on this particular day of next year. But that's next year. So here we are, Yahweh's calendar 2020 and 21. And you can download this once again. You see the link here, eliad.com/calendar2020.pdf. So, anyway. So that wraps up our new moon broadcast. I want to report also we did have some other sightings that people had submitted to us. Dennis Bitterman in Holt Summit, Missouri. 6 people saw the new moon there at 8:04 p.m. Scott Bitterman family in Florida at 7:31 p.m. Eastern Time. Richard got 2 reports for the new moon. 3 witnesses, 2 adults and 1 child in Northeast Georgia. 4 witnesses in Squires, Missouri. That's going to be the Rome family. And Ed and Diane from Blanchester, Ohio, reported they saw the new moon in southern Ohio. So lots of new moon reports, including the land of Israel, and different pictures of the new moon here has been submitted. You can take a look at these, as well as our very own. We saw here in Ava. If you go back on the broadcast, you'll get to see a live video of the actual new moon above our studio here in Ava, Missouri. Anyway, hope that your new year is blessed and fruitful, and you are closer to Him this year than you were last year, and that you're growing in obedience more this year than you were last year, and hopefully next year you'll be growing in greater obedience as well, and be more and more like Yeshua each and every year, each and every month, as we travel this road that He set before us. May Yahweh strengthen you, guide you, lead you into His ways this new year. And I hope that your resolution for this new year is you're going to be more like Yeshua by the end of the year. And so anyway, until this coming Shabbat, and we look forward to another broadcast here from our studio in Ava. And until then, have a blessed and fruitful week in Him. Shalom, shalom to your homes.